Welcome to the Art Lady channel. Today I am going to show you how I made this beautiful ceramic planter in the style of Impressionism. And it's after Claude Monet's famous paintings, The Water Lilies. And it absolutely came out gorgeous right here. Look how beautiful that is. The way the colors all blended together. And this was done with ceramic clay, a ceramic clay pot, and stroke and coats by Mako. All the glazes were Mako. But you can also use acrylic, although acrylic paint won't last as long on an outside planter. If you would like more of this content, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. But I also have step-by-step procedures for students to make different clay projects in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. So if you click on the title, it'll take you to a link, and that's how you can support this channel. But for this free video tutorial, stay tuned. This was a little version of the Claude Monet Water Lilies pot, and I'm going to be making a larger version to show you how I did this. It's very easy to do. I actually had one that was about 2 feet tall in my garden for years, and it was my pride and joy, and I loved it so much, but then it actually broke. So I'm going to make some more up, and I'm going to show you how I did it. I'm using the Mako stroke and coats. You can also use underglazes, or you can use acrylic paints, but they're not going to be permanent. I found that, you know, this paint works the best because it's ceramic paint. Obviously, it's not going to wash off. I've already done one coat on the pot right now, and I'm going to show you how I did that. What I did was I took some Blue Yonder, which is just a light blue paint, and you can just use any light blue paint. If you want to use light blue underglazes, that's fine, but a very light value. And then I'm using some Cottontail, which is just a white paint, and I put it in a little dish like this. And I'm also using Blue Isle as well from Mako. And I'm just going to take my brush, and I'm going to, using a fan brush, I'm going to place some of the white paint on one side, and on the other side I'm going to place some of the blue and then the medium blue. So I have all three colors on my brush at the same time. And I'm going across the pot horizontally, and these are going to be forming the waves in the water, or the different colors in the water that are reflected as an Impressionist style painting. And I'm just lightly going across, and you can see how it's picking up. Right here, we've got streaks of different colors. And I'm just layering this. You can even come across this way if you want to pull some, and then lightly fan it. You want to make sure that you have a really good coverage coat though, so it's really thick. I keep on dipping in. Let me show you as I do this. Loading up the brush, and then I'm just layering it and streaking it. But if you notice up in here, I missed some of this area. You've got to go back and get some of that. So I added some more white to that area. You want it to be a solid coverage of color. Otherwise, you're just going to have really light values of color, and it's not going to be very glossy or have much color. Now, like I said, I've already done one coat of this. You can kind of see some air bubbles here where I missed. So I want to make sure I really get in those areas heavy. So I'm putting this paint on very heavy, not brushing it in too much, like so. And I'm doing 2 coats of this. So I'm going over this 2 times, and I barely wipe over it. It's pretty thick coverage. You want it to be streaky, and each time load up the brush. Each time you're loading up the brush with partial colors, and then I'll hit some of the darker color in the middle. So you can see 3 coats of color, and then lightly, and you're painting it like an Impressionist painting. And I'm lightly going to fan over this. And sometimes you might want to take more white if it's too dark in an area, and then just lightly streak it And you can see I've got all different colors in here as I streak. So my goal is not to blend it all to one color. I want to see the different colors, like Claude Monet's water lily painting. So you're going to go through this process until it's all covered, nice and thick, and you want to do 2 really, really thick coats of this paint. And again, I'm not spreading it real thin, I'm just kind of laying it and leaving it, kind of like what the Impressionists did. They laid it and left it. Dabs of color, they did not blend on their canvases. So now I'm going to continue painting, like so I get the whole thing done. And if it's too dark in one area, just streak it with some white. And it doesn't take very long for coverage, especially if you're using these fan brushes. And then I'm just gonna, there. Then I'm gonna wait for that to dry. Now inside, I just did a foundation's white coating right here on the middle, on the inside. It's just a foundation's white on the inside. And then what I like to do, because the pot, if it's gonna have dirt or another pot inside it, this is gonna be for orchids, so it'll have an insert. I just like to come down a little bit with some of the blue, because sometimes this shows. So I don't want it to just end like so. Now I'm using a little bit of green thumb and a little bit of sour apple. And I'm using some orchid and a little pink abu. And that's gonna be our flowers. I put a little bit too much actually of that. I probably could get away with a little bit less, but I do have a couple pots I'm doing right now. A little bit of cottontail for highlights you can. And then I do want a little bit of shadow underneath the water lily. So I'm gonna use some teal next time, just a darker value of teal. So I'll show you the difference right here. Here's what it looks like compared to the other values of blue for the water. And I'm just gonna use a smaller brush and dab it on. Now I'm gonna do some lily pads and just some streaks of color like this. Just lay the color down where you want your lily pad. I'm gonna put a little bit of the darker value as well. I'm laying it pretty thick right here. And again, this is the stroking coat, and if you lay it thick enough, you only need about two coats of this thick color. So then I'm gonna put some lily pads up in here. So I'm laying it pretty thick like puddles. And I haven't thinned out this paint or anything. And then I'm putting a darker value underneath. And I'm not washing my brush in between. So streaks of color coming across. And then, let me move this down here so you can see how I'm doing it with my brush. I'm kind of twirling my brush here so I get just the tip, and I'm just laying that color on. Coming through with a darker color. So this is my lighter color now. I could do several at a time. I want it to be pretty thick. I want it to be pretty thick so I don't have to come back and do 3 coats. Now I'm staggering them. If you notice, I'm not putting them in a straight row. I can even put one small one over in here. Yeah. Now I'm going to come up in here and just lay some dark line. Lay a little dark shadow at the bottom. this one I did the opposite. Dark and then light on top. Just dabbing the color. If you twirl your brush, then you can, it's kind of cleaning it, and then you can dip in with some darker value. Scoop it up, lay it on. I'm kind of looking at assessing what I need. I'm just going to put another one in here and maybe another one over here. Now I'm just going to wipe my brush, and I'm going to go back into this lighter values that we started with in here, and I'm going to put some more white on because I want to add some hand-painted streaks in here as well. So I'm going to use some more of that cottontail. Let's get some more out here. Now I'm going to go with the cottontail and then my lighter values of blue and just hand do some streaks here. A little bit thicker underneath. And it's okay if you dab in some of that green, because the green, see how it's blending? Your green is reflecting into that water on your edges. So go into the white, dab into the blue, and I'm just kind of blending this. And then if you take some of that darkest blue, I just barely dipped in, just a little bit for the shadow underneath. Still pretty thick here. I'm going to add the darkest value just a little bit here. I'm going to wipe my brush. And then I'm going into the white and the lighter blues and just laying it and blending it. Now I want some of this white. You don't want it to be one color. You want the brush strokes to show. That's what's going to make it beautiful. And I like mine more light in value. Oops. If you make a mistake, I just wipe it with my hand like that. And then I'll come back with, let's paint some streaks of dark over in here. Right on top. That's what's the beauty about this. It's easy to fix mistakes. There's my white. So a little bit of dark here, a little bit of dark, a little bit of dark, a little bit of dark, and that's just that darker teal. Then I clean my brush, just wiping it on a piece of paper. And now I'm going back with some white streaks. And then, oh, that was a bit dark. And then I do some darker streak here. And even if you rim some of this up in here with some darker too, sometimes toward the, I'm envisioning this as the shore. And then it gets lighter, or where there's more or less shadows. So it doesn't have to be all the same. If you look closely at some of Monet's water lily paintings, you see that some areas are darker and some are lighter, depending on the shadows. And the time of day, too. When I went to see his garden, the water looked really dark, actually. It wasn't all this light bluey color. Only when the sun was shining on certain spots, it was really, really light. And that's how I'm going to do all the water, and then I'll show you how I do the lilies. Now I'm going to do the lilies, the fun part. Actually, it's all pretty fun. I love Monet's water lily paintings. All right, I've got that white, which is the cottontail. I'm going to hold it kind of this way, I think. Let's see if it's a good view. And then I've got the peekaboo and then the lilac. And it's just dabbing a little bit of color. There's some pink. And of course, water lilies, they're kind of in this shape here. I'll do a big version for you. Kind of like that. That's all basically you need to do for the water lily. If you want to accent in the center with a little bit of that purpley stuff, just hit it with some purple. If you want two-tone. And I'm doing it really thick. I'm just scooping up a blob of it. And then I'm starting at the top and going toward the lily. You can kind of mix those two colors. Pull it toward the lily. You want to add a little bit of white to it, you can too. And I'm just laying one on. So the sides are a little bit taller than the middle one. So I start at the top, pull down. I guess you could do it either way if you wanted a pointier. If you want it to be pointy. And then a little bit of up. That's actually kind of big. I don't want it to be that big. See how I fix it? I just pull it away. This one's kind of big too. I'll leave that one. There. Just little dabs of water lilies. You don't want it to be looking like a circle though. So you want the tips to be pretty thick. And this again is the stroke and coat. That's why you can kind of just lay it and leave it. And I'll show you the color this comes out. When it's fired, I'll show it to you in the end, but for now, I'll show you, it's this pink color right here on this pot. You can see that pink. That's that peekaboo. And I like the water lilies because it looks really pretty out on the pool deck or outside. I want it to go with my pool tile. But again, I'm not going to put it near, real close to the pool because I don't want it to, break into the pool. But I want it to go outside. And there it is, the beautiful little water lilies. And I'll show you what it looks like after it comes out of the kiln. And here they are. I just took them out of the kiln. And I'll show you how they both came out. If I tip them, you can see less. But the blending came out beautiful. I like it actually where it's more muted, right in here. where it's actually just faint, because then you view it from a distance, like Monet's paintings. And then this one is the second one I did. And I just did this one for fun. This one came out cute too. I just wanted to show you real quick. This one I did in the style of Mackenzie Childs. So I hope you enjoy the video, and go ahead and hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more of this content. And don't forget to check out my Teachers Pay Teachers account called the Art Ladies Store.